What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with the overall markets and why the market's going to most likely pump and dump today, in my opinion. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Mumu link that's down below or use this QR code right here to sign up. If you sign up for Mumu with the link down below and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free Nvda stock. If you deposit $2,000, you're going to get $50 worth of the stock. Deposits $10,000 to get $300 worth, or deposit $50,000 to get $1,000 of free Nvidia. You're also going to qualify for a 3.6% APY base rate plus a 4.5% APY extra for 3 months, making it a total of an 8.1% APY. The offer ends very soon, so please check out my link down below to sign up. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets. So as far as the market's going, I think that there's a good chance that SPY tries to bounce off the 650 area temporarily. We could even try to retest, 660 to 665 in that range. But afterwards, I would not be surprised if we get a rejection and we continue to fall. And then heading into next week, there is still some downside risk because every time we pump, we just reject, we pump and reject and pump and reject. And there is a good chance that could be happening all over again. For the stock market, we basically saw a nice pump with Nvidia's earnings only for us to dump all over again, especially with the fears about the Fed not potentially giving us a cut for December. With the September jobs report, this supports that notion. And also, the October jobs numbers are not going to be coming out. So, looking at the numbers so far, the headline number was hotter than what economists were expecting, with an increase of about 119,000 jobs, and the unemployment rate ticked up to about 4.4%, the highest since 2021. Once again, the chance of a rate cut has remained low, and so far we're going to wait and see what happens as time goes on. So that's what we're seeing, at least thus far, to start things off for the news. We had Paulson from the Fed giving a speech, and she mentioned that on the margin, I'm still a little worried about the labor market than she is about inflation, but I expect to learn a lot between now and the next meeting. So it's basically about just looking at the numbers. No cuts are guaranteed, and we're going to see what happens at least as time goes on. So they're still waiting on a lot of data. Besides that, I just want to mention that on the economic calendar, we just have a bunch of Fed speakers for today, like Williams, Barr, Jefferson, Collin, and Logan. But then there's going to likely be some volatility at 9:45 a.m. as you have the S&P Global Composite Manufacturing and Services PMI reports alongside the Michigan Consumer Sentiment data. So expect some volatility 15 minutes and 30 minutes after the stock market opens once this data comes out. Finally, for today, I just forgot to remind you guys that we have over 730,000 of these calls expiring. So we have quite a few calls expiring today. And then we have over 2.4 million, almost 2.5 million plus of these puts expiring for a 3.4 puts to call option ratio, which is why I do think the market could try to bounce a little bit, but then we could get a rejection again. So I would not be too bullish. I think we're just going to get a temporary defensive bounce to start things off in the morning. So this morning, I think we basically gap up. Now, if we lose 650, we're bearish. We're going to be continuing to dump to 646 next and eventually 641. But I don't really favor that yet. I think what's going to happen is we gap up and try to pump a little bit. We retest this support becoming resistance around 660. 660 to 665 will likely be tested. Then we're going to see if we reject off that and turn right back down. I think that's the most likely possibility for today. A temporary pump. So we could be pumping another 5 to 10 points on SPY before we turn back down. Same thing with the QQQ. The QQQ is trying to base right here at 580. We actually made a new low. We made new lows during the pre-market for the QQQ, only for us to start to wick back up. This is a sign that it wants to retest 590. If we're bearish, you want to see us basically fail at 580. If that fails us, we're going to be dumping lower. But as we're trying to bounce here, we're going to likely try to retest 590 and 595. I think there's a good chance we get close to like 595. This support becoming resistance should be tested, and then we're going to be watching this resistance where this trend line happens to be. So see this trend line right here where we rejected. We might retest this, and if we can't hold above 595, we could turn right back down. So I could see like another 5 to 7 points higher on the QQQ before we turn. I think that's the most likely possibility. On the IWM, if we end up losing support down here at 228, it's going to be more bearish. Also keep in mind there's a gap to fill around 226. However, we're not ready to fill the gap yet. We could be pushing a little higher for like 233 to 235. And then we're going to see if we reverse. If we do reverse, we could return to fill that gap as the days go on, maybe for like next week. ES is forming a wick here. So we made new lows on ES like I was talking about yesterday. We did come down lower, but now we're trying to bounce. We're going to be looking for an attempt for 66 higher than 66.50. And then once we hit those resistances, we could turn right back down. So I'm looking for a move like that. NQ is also trying to base at 24,000. As long as that holds, we could attempt to get back up to 24,500. This support becoming resistance. And then we're going to see if we turn back down from there. On Bitcoin, we could attempt to rebound back up to about 86,000. We'll see if we turn, but there could be a temporary bounce coming. For Tesla, same thing. We're trying to rebound a little bit, but every time Tesla's pump, we kind of rejected. Tesla could retest 406 or even 410 temporarily before it potentially turns again. I also don't think that Tesla's done with all the downside. If you look at the daily chart, there is still a risk of it coming back down to 380 and then 368 to fill this gap. But we're not ready to just dump and fill the gap. We already dumped so much yesterday. We could bounce a little bit first for 406 or even 410, and then we could turn again if we get a rejection. Nvda is kind of flat right now. Nvda is trying to bounce a little bit as we're holding 580. So it looks to me like we could try to retest the trend line, pushing us back up to 185 on Nvidia before it turns. So we're looking for a temporary bounce before we turn back down. Apple's kind of weak this morning. It could be retesting 264, and we'll see if it bounces or not. So keep that in mind. Just a couple more tickers. We have AMD trying to rebound for essentially 210 to 215, and we'll see if it turns from there. For Coinbase, we may even try to retest 249. I think we retest this support becoming resistance. And then if that breaks, we're looking for 259. But then every time we touch this green line, we do reject. Might bounce a bit before it rejects. Amazon, we dipped even more today in the morning. We actually came down to 215, which is what I was talking about yesterday. Now we could bounce a little bit. I could see like 222 again, maybe even 225, and then we could turn again and reject. Meta may attempt to retest 596, and we'll see if we turn. Google may get back up towards 300, and we'll see if we turn as well. There's going to be likely a temporary bounce. Microsoft may also retest 480 to 482, and we'll see if we turn. The VIX is temporarily dipping, but this might just be a small dip before it tries to bounce. I could see this get back down towards like the 23s. So be careful with implied volatility. And don't forget there's lots of option expirations for today. So I think we temporarily bounce, but this could be followed by a bit of a sell-off later. I think SPY goes another like 5 to 10 points higher. I think the QQQ could go another like 5 to 7 points higher. And then we're going to see if we turn back down from there. Keep in mind there's data coming out at 9:45 a.m. So look for volatility then. And until then, I wish you all the best. So be prepared 15 minutes after market open for volatility, and peace out.